Hey friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today I am excited to share with you my top 7 favorite perennials to plant in the fall so that you will have gorgeous spring color. I know we talk a lot about here in the southeast, it is the perfect time to be adding perennials and trees and shrubs to your garden. Heck, most of the country, as long as you get your plants in before your ground freezes. So my folks who are in really cold climates, you're going to want to get your plants in the ground weeks before the ground actually freezes. Fantastic time to get these babies into the ground. That way they can get really well established before the heat of the summer hits. So I'm going to share with you these top 7 perennials that will give you gorgeous spring color early on in the season. So that is what we're focusing on, because I know now our winters here in the south are very mild, but we too enjoy seeing lots of fresh color as soon as the weather starts to turn. So look for these at your local garden centers, grab some up and then add them to your garden so that you will have gorgeous color come this spring. I do have my little cheat sheet, so if you see my little clipboard, that is what I'm doing, so that way I make sure I have all my information correct. These are in no particular order. I am not ranking them from my absolute favorite down. These are just the ones that just came to me as I was thinking. So first of all, I have Baptisia. Now Baptisia is one of my favorite, and I'm going to say that, and just forgive me because these are my top 7 favorites, so I'm going to say it over and over again, I am sure. But Baptisia is one of those early spring bloomers that is so easy and low maintenance. And the longer you leave it in your garden, just like all these other perennials, they get bigger and better with every year. I have lemon meringue in the cottage garden by the house, and it is just spectacular. It's been there, this is its 4th season, I believe, that it has been in the garden, and it is just wonderful. Now, Baptisia is going to be for part to full sun, roughly in zones 4 to 9, and they're going to range in size. So depending on the variety that you get, they're going to be anywhere between that 2 feet to 3 feet tall and wide. Baptisia are great even after they bloom because they bring a lot of architectural interest into your garden. They are narrow at the base and then kind of come upward and spread out. So it has a vase-like feature. And they come in a host of colors. Lemon meringue obviously is a beautiful yellow. You can have them in the blues, in the pinks, even in kind of like the chocolate browns. The soft whites, they're available also. They are drought tolerant once they are established because they have an extremely long tap root. So that is one thing about the Baptisia, is make sure that you plant it where you like it, because of that deep tap root. It does not transplant well after it has been established. They are deer resistant. Now, when I say deer resistant in this video, that does not mean deer proof. There is no such thing as a deer proof plant, because if deer are hungry, they will eat absolutely anything. But they are deer resistant, and they are a native plant to North America. Gorgeous tall spikes on them, really fun. Again, it brings height to your garden, lots of interest. Even after they bloom, you're going to have this like a bluish green foliage to the plant. Stunning. So find a Baptisia and add it to your garden. Next, Amsonia. I do enjoy a beautiful Amsonia because, again, they have these early blooms, really fun texture to them, leaf texture, and they have gorgeous true blue flowers to them. And depending on your variety, they will be dependent on size, of course, right? So String Theory from Proven Winners is one of the more smaller ones. Then you've got Storm Cloud, which will be a little bit bigger. And then you can go with just the native plant that's like a non-branded plant, which is what I have in my garden. It's been there again for that 4 to 5 years. It is actually right below my Baptisia. Stunning. Now, Amsonias do like, again, the part to the full sun, zones 4 to 9, average about that 2 foot to 3 foot height on them. Very fine feathery foliage. They are heat tolerant, wonderful plant. They can handle that full hot sun. Once established, they are drought tolerant, deer resistant, again, native to North America, and they have gorgeous fall color. So a lot of your Amsonia will turn that's almost like a yellowish golden color. So this time of year, you've got interest in the plant as well. Next, for my shade gardeners, I have Pulmonaria. Pulmonaria is just one of those extremely low maintenance perennials, gorgeous foliage. Even if it didn't bloom, you need to add it to your garden just because of its gorgeous speckled colors to it. But Pulmonaria depends on your variety, but they will have blooms like the Spot On from Proven Winners and the new Pinka Blue. They will have flowers that start either in that salmon to pink color and then transition to blue. Hopefully I got that right, because I always get mixed up, but I'm pretty sure it's the pink to the blue. Hence pink blue. But these are definitely going to be your shade plants, anywhere from part to full shade, hardy in zones 3 to 9. So if you are in zones 3, you can handle a lot more sun than my folks who are in zone 9. If you're in zone 9, your Pulmonaria needs to be in lots and lots of shade. So this is where you have to become a student of your own garden and look at the sunlight requirements, and maybe a plant is even like sun or shade zones 3 to 9. If you're in zone 3, absolutely you could probably put it in full sun. If you're in zone 9, it's probably going to be more of a shade plant or a morning sun, afternoon shade. So you're going to have to play around with it and kind of analyze the plant specifications and then put it in the appropriate place in your garden. And don't be afraid if it's not like thriving, then move it. But Pulmonaria, again, is going to be, it's a perfect shade companion in your garden because it blends really well with your hostas. It has kind of that same habit as a hosta, where it's not going to be very tall, about 16 inches tall, but it's going to be nice and wide, about 20 inches wide. Deer and rabbit resistant. It does need good drainage. It doesn't like to sit in consistently wet soil. It will rot. Now it likes moisture, but it's got to be well draining soil. And for us, it's a semi-evergreen. Ours don't completely go away in the wintertime like a hosta does. Now if you're in zone 3, it probably is going to disappear. All your foliage is going to go away, and then early spring it'll come back. But those early spring blooms are great for your pollinators because they are in desperate need of some sweet nectar come early spring. Hellebores, Lenten roses, one of my all-time favorite perennials because it is probably the #1 earliest blooming perennial out there. They're called Lenten roses because they will bloom a lot of times during the season of Lent. It is not uncommon whatsoever to find a hellebore blooming covered in snow. They are very cold tolerant and they are long blooming. I actually had one last year that started blooming like late November and went all the way through the spring. Gorgeous colors, and they will go anywhere from like black to white and every color in between. There are tons of different varieties and cultivars and series out there that you can go to your local garden center and just ask them about hellebores, or common name is Lenten roses. These are going to be the old-timey varieties, definitely need more shade. There are some new cultivars that can do more sun. It's just going to depend on your zone and the plant. So just read your plant tag. Zones 3 to 9, so very, very versatile. They're going to average about 16 inches tall and 20 inches wide. Deer and rabbit resistant because they have very thick, leathery, rough foliage to them, so it is not a tender foliage whatsoever. And they are that evergreen, so even in the summer you're going to see your structure even though you don't have your flowers. And it does do really well in dry shade. My mom has tons of hellebores, the old-timey varieties where they will reseed themselves, so she has got plenty to share with me, and those are all in her dry shade garden. The old cultivars do reseed, so if you want to have a naturalized area, those would be a great choice. Or if you want to have some more of the newer varieties, they are much more well behaved and stay neat and tidy. So again, just look at your conditions, what are you going for, and then pick the right cultivar for that. Next, so I always mispronounce this name. I wanted to call it Brunnera, but I was, you know me, I'm just full disclosure. So I was doing the description on like how to say it, and it reminds me of like Bruno. So it's Brunnera. So there we go, Brunnera, right? We never have these things perfect. It's like tomato. A lot of these, of course, plant names are in Latin. So, you know, you just learn as you go. And if somebody around you mispronounces a plant name and you know what it is, just smile and nod. There's no need to be pronunciation police, people. Come on now. Be gracious. My word. Okay, Jenny's gonna get off her mama soapbox there for a minute. But we have got two great varieties from Proven Winners that we use a lot. Now, of course, there are tons of them out there. Queen of Hearts and then Jack of Diamonds. Those are great different varieties, lots of varieties for you to choose from with your Brunnera. And they are going to be, again, a shade plant. So anywhere from part to full shade, zones 3 to 8, very, very versatile. Even for us as a Zone 7B, these do wonderful for us. 16 inches tall, 28 inches wide, but they have spectacular silver and green foliage. But what's really fun is their blooms is this gorgeous true blue flower, and it will come up and raise above the plant foliage itself. So you have got this gorgeous pop of blue, which your honeybees will find particularly attractive. And this is a great alternative or in addition to your hostas because they are deer resistant. They are very hairy is the best way I can describe it. Lots of texture to the leaves. But that beautiful true blue bloom that comes up above it in the early spring is just gorgeous and will make a great addition to your shade garden. Next, we have a Jacob's Ladder. Heaven Sent from Proven Winners is one of those plants that I honestly never would have tried because it is hardy in zones 3 to 7. But we have such a great relationship with Walters Gardens that they send us these trial plants. They sent us this plant and it does great here. Because we are a Zone 7B, this is why I would be hesitant to try it being so cold hardy. I would have thought that our summers would have been just too hot and it would have melted, but it does really, really well. So the Heaven Sent Jacob's Ladder is going to be part shade to full sun. Now, remember what I told you, depending on your zone will depend on where you put that plant. If you are a Zone 3, absolutely, I am sure you could probably put it out in full sun. Us as a 7B, since this plant is only tolerant to a Zone 7, it goes in deep shade for us. Shade, 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 can do a little bit of filtered sun, and that is it. It is going to be about 18 inches tall and wide. Gorgeous blue flowers on this. The Heaven Sent has a very unique leaf texture to itself, but then when you add on these gorgeous blue flowers, it is just a stunning plant that is just a great welcome, very cheery sight to your early spring garden. And these are going to be deer resistant as well. So hopefully in here you have found some great options that if you have sun or if you have shade, if you are a Zone 3 or if you're a Zone 9, depending on where you are, hopefully you have found a lot of good choices. Now, I would be remiss if I did not include your spring flowering bulbs. The fall is the absolute best time to put your bulbs into the ground. Depending on your zone will depend on what bulbs you're going to put into the ground. If you are nice and cold hardy, you can put tulips and alliums and daffodils. There are massive amounts of different types of spring flowering bulbs that you can put into your garden right now. They can get nice and established, and come early spring, they will be very happy. In the south, we have to be a little bit more careful and selective of the plants that we put, the bulbs that we put into the ground, because we do not have consistently cold winters that can help some of those bulbs. For example, tulips. Tulips need, and alliums need, a certain length of time, typically 6 to 8 weeks, of cold temperatures at a certain level or below. They need that vernalization period in order to store up the food and then flower beautifully. we don't get cold enough. So we have to pre-chill those kinds of bulbs, tulips, alliums. I'm trying to think of some. Anyway, if you Google, if like when you're looking, and if you look at Color Blends is a great website that does a lot of spring flowering bulbs. I do, even Van Engelen's is a great one. John Sheepers, those are all Breck's wonderful online stores that you can order these from. They will tell you if it needs to be pre-chilled or not. We do jonquils. They are daffodils, but they are the jonquilla line of the daffodils. Those do not have to be pre-chilled for us. They do really well in the southern climates. I put my first 200 in the ground last week. Super excited about that. Crocuses will do well for us. Snowdrops. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember, but different ones. So now is the perfect time to get those spring flowering bulbs in the ground. A little bit of work in the fall will bring you lots of cheery results come the spring. Again, I hope you have found at least 1 or 2 plants in this list that has piqued your interest and you want to add to your garden, because again, doing a little bit of work here in the fall will bring you such massive dividends come the spring when we're all just desperately yearning for some color and some interest in our gardens. These 7 perennials will not fail you. As always, thanks so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all stay tuned because this is going to be a 2-part series. We're going to have one on my 7 favorite shrubs to add to your garden for spring flowers. Again, we appreciate you. Y'all have a great day. See you in the next video. Bye.